If there was ever a car that didn't deserve to be as popular as it was the original Vauxhall Mokka. Wasn't really any major strengths, it was a teeny weeny bit bland, but yet people still lapped them up, whether that was down to the looks of an SUV or good finance deals or witchcraft, I don't know. They're sold by the bucket load. But now we have this new one. Now, first things first, let me just say, this is miles better than the old one. But you haven't driven it yet, Nicola, so how could you possibly know? I hear you say. Let me give you a quick history lesson. Not too long ago, Vauxhall joined Peugeot Citroën and has subsequently been joined by Fiat and Alfa Romeo. Now they collectively make an automotive powerhouse capable of some very impressive things. Now we have driven the Peugeot 2008, we've also driven the new Citroën C4 and we like them both. And guess which car shares most of their parts? Hey Lieutenant Colombo, the Vauxhall Mokka. I mean, we could just stop there, but I'm not gonna. We've got a full review coming up, guys, but first things first, make sure you subscribe to the Carbuyer YouTube channel, click on the bell icon so then you get notifications every time a video goes live, and if you like this one, then like it. Oh, thank you. As well as all those cars just mentioned, the Mokka is also looking to steal sales from family favourites like the Nissan Juke and the Renault Captur, as well as the practical Skoda Kamiq and the fun-to-drive Ford Puma. It's a busy part of the market, so it is. Just like its Peugeot and Citroën cousins, the Mokka is available with petrol, diesel and electric power. There are lots of specs to choose from: SE, SRI, Elite Nav and Ultimate Nav on the petrol and diesel models, plus SE Nav Premium, SRI Nav Premium and Elite Nav Premium on the electric version. But we'd be here for hours if we ran through all of those and what they include, so it's best to check out the full review on the Carbuyer website. So many of these small SUVs tend to sell on design alone. I mean, why else was the original Juke such a big hit? But pleasingly, if style is your main criteria, this new Mokka should be in with a shout. It's a lot more striking than the car it replaces. That is largely thanks to its visor front end, which is actually going to be a recurring theme in new Vauxhalls over the coming years. We think it's a very attractive car. Cabin's quite nice too. Would you look at what we've got here? A very nice balance between form and function. That visor front end has been replicated in here, so you've got a nice continuous piece of instrument and infotainment clustery thing going on. Every version gets a 7-inch touchscreen, or you've only got to go up one trim level and then you get this 10-inch touchscreen. The touchscreen itself is not the most responsive. I mean, you can see the lag when you press the buttons, but connectivity is very good. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in every model. You can probably see you've got temperature controls on either side of the touchscreen, but Vauxhall have added to the Mokka physical twisty-doos rather than touchy slideys that you get in VW and the like. Now the dials, which are bigger in higher spec models like this one, nice and clear. They show a surprising amount of information. It's not the sort of thing you'd expect in a Vauxhall. A Lexus or a Mercedes maybe, but not a Vauxhall. I mean, quality is another place where it surprises in a good way. I mean, the materials used, or the things that you touch regularly, feel pretty plush. Maybe a bit too much glossy black for my liking, but you can forget all of the cheap, nasty associations you've had with Vauxhall in the past, because things are looking up. There's lots of room to stretch out in front. You've got some good storage, couple of cup holders that are a little bit too small, but you've got space for your phone here, and the door bins are a good size. But here is where the Mokka's talents dry up. I know cars like the Mokka are based on smaller cars, like this is based on the Corsa, hence the name small SUV. But you would assume that with the practical SUV body shape, that you would have a bit more room back here, but that's really not the case. If you had a taller person sat in the seat in front, I mean, legroom, I'm 5'6", that really is a premium. Headroom is fine, but let's be honest, the Ford Puma is much bigger and more accommodating to passengers back here. It doesn't have the slidey bench that you get in the Renault Captur. I mean, you've got ISOFIX points, a couple of USB points there as well, but yeah, it feels pretty tight back here.
The Mokka's boot isn't really much better either. At 350 litres, it is bigger than the Corsa on which it's based, but it can't compete with the largest cars in this class. A Renault Captur is comfortably bigger in every dimension. Go for the pure electric Mokka E and you lose a further 40 litres to the petrol model, though there is enough space under the floor for the charge cables. The Mokka's rear seats fold down, of course, revealing just over 1,100 litres. That will help with loading larger items, but once again, it's a long way off the best in its class.
Now, we mentioned earlier that the Mokka is based on the basic structure of the Peugeot 2008 and the Citroën C4. Now, each of those are very different behind the wheel. I mean, the Peugeot is a lot sportier, whereas Citroën tend to prioritise comfort. The Mokka then sits somewhere in the middle. But if you really do enjoy driving, the Ford Puma is a much better all-rounder, but the body roll in this does seem quite controlled. I mean, you barely notice anything, only if you really take the Mokka out of its comfort zone. But that control has come at the expense of comfort. It's fine when you're around town, but when you're at speed, it's less settled. Now, the Mokka's engines are pretty punchy, however, which is all thanks to turbocharging in that regard. Now, this one is the 128 brake horsepower 1.2 litre engine, which is around 1,200 quid more than the basic 98 brake horsepower one, which we think is worth it, because you get a decent shove. 0 to 62 time of 9.1 seconds for only a few extra quid a month. Oh, and you do have to pay extra for this auto box, which is slick enough that most people will be fine with a manual.
Vauxhall says the petrol models will do 51.4 miles per gallon, or a little bit less, if you go for that auto box with CO2 emissions of 126 grams per kilometre. The diesels, which we'd avoid unless you do mega miles, will do maybe 10 miles per gallon more, but they won't appeal to company car drivers given the benefit in kind rates.
If you want to use the Mokka as a company car, then I think you should think long and hard as to whether the electric version of the Mokka will fit into your lifestyle. If you are new to EVs, the Mokka E feels very natural and normal to drive. It doesn't have the crazy performance that you get in some electric cars, but it feels quick enough. Get around 200 miles range, give or take, on a full charge. I mean, it doesn't have the all-round package that the VW ID3 does, but it will charge pretty quickly and will cost pennies to run. So, let's have some Dealmakers, Dealbreakers, shall we?
Inside and out, the Mokka is miles better than the old one. It's a stylish and well-built small SUV. The Mokka isn't loads of fun, but it's easy to drive. The electric version is a perfect starter EV too. That electric version will be super cheap to run, but the petrol engines are frugal and no matter your mileage, shouldn't break the bank. The Mokka is based on the Corsa Super Mini, but rivals are more practical. There's no sliding bench and the boot isn't particularly big.
To say this new Vauxhall Mokka is better than the old one is a bit of an understatement. In fact, it is so much better that we think that Vauxhall coulda, woulda, shoulda changed its name. I mean, it's decent enough to drive, you've got a wide range of engines and specs, looks cool inside and out. Whichever model you choose is going to be cheap to run. It's not the most practical car in its class, and the Renault Captur is bigger in every regard, and if we're being honest, the Ford Puma is a lot more fun. But now, the Vauxhall Mokka is a very good all-rounder and should be on your shortlist if you want a small, stylish SUV.
If you like this video, why not watch our Ford Puma review or our SUVs playlist. Thanks for watching.